Hey everybody, it's Deborah Kendall. Listen, I just wanted to jump on. Had an idea. Maybe it'll go over, maybe it won't, but maybe it'll help keep me accountable to finish this book. I started it really intrigued me, and then I wanted to share it with everybody, but then I didn't know about how to go about that. And anyway, so I haven't really gotten very far in this book, but I know it is very intriguing to me because I am studied in the Word. I'm very familiar with the prophets in the Bible, uh, and I see what's going on in the world around us. Kind of connecting some dots, we've got these principalities that are over nations, and you've got the powers that are under those, and so on and so forth, all the way down to the demonic level that we see literally around us on the earth realm. Um, so, uh, knowing the word and then, being able to kind of sup from some morsels of a little deeper truth on the Hebrew side of the study is always good to me. I think we miss so much in our Western culture teaching by not getting into a little more of the original roots. So let's just dive in. I'm reading The Return of the Gods by Jonathan Cahn, and it's a little GODS, okay? But there are some, and we are seeing so much of, people want to call them demonic forces at work in our government, in our socioeconomical systems, in our education, in our religions, even, that, those four hidden dynasties. But in Ephesians 6 says we want to all read about the armor and that we don't fight against flesh and blood. But what are we fighting against? We're fighting against these little GODSs, or principalities, if you want to call them that. These powers that are evil, and they're anti our God, and they are very much against us, and they are trying to take as many in the great falling away as they can. So let's get into this book. I'm so excited. Okay, so part one is the mystery, and it's broke down into, several parts. Part one is the mystery, part two is the spirits, part three is the dark trinity, part four is the possessor, part five is the enchantress, part six is the destroyer, part seven is the transformer, part 8 is the explosion, part 9 dominion, and part 10, which is the last part, is war of the gods. So the chapters are pretty short, so I thought we might just maybe grab a couple chapters if they're small. Take that, I'll read them, and then maybe we can, discuss it at the end on a chat or in the comments or something beneath the video, or if you want to do a live, Q&A, let me know. I'm open. Let's embrace what we've got while we've got it. I just want to learn. I want to grow, and trust me, I believe all truth comes from the Word of God. I do. And if anything in here does not line up with the Word of God and I miss it and you catch it, you better tell me, because I'm always looking. But anyway, so I just want to say, Lord, give us a word of wisdom and discernment as we broach the study. All right, chapter 1 is called The Mystery. It says, and this is just him posing some questions to you to get you to start thinking before getting into really laying the groundwork. Is it possible that behind what is happening to America and the world lies a mystery hidden in the ancient inscriptions of the Middle East? Is it possible that the ancient entities known as the gods are more than fiction and possess an independent reality? Is it possible that they have returned to our world? Could these entities lie behind what we see on our television screens, our computer monitors, what we find in our shopping centers, what our children are being taught in their classrooms, what our leaders announce and implement? Could they lie behind the current events, news, and movements of our times, and behind what is even now influencing our lives without our realizing it? Is it possible that one of these ancient entities once paid a visit to New York City and started a cultural revolution that is still transforming our world? Who are the possessor, the enchantress, the destroyer, and the transformer? Who are they? What do they do? And what do they have to do with what is now taking place in our culture? Could there be a mystery that lies behind and explains the sign of the rainbow and the reason it is now saturating our culture? And could that mystery go back to the temples of ancient Mesopotamia? Could the mystery of the gods have actually determined the outcomes and timings of the Supreme Court rulings down to their exact days? Is it possible that the dynamics of ancient mythology have actually played out in our public squares and on our city streets in real time? Could these gods or beings actually be the unseen movers and catalysts of modern culture? Could they even now, at this moment, be at work transforming the modern world beyond recognition? What is it all leading to? We will embark on a journey beginning with the ancient entities known as the Sheddim. That's Sheddim. We will remove the veil to uncover the first and the most important revelation underlying the mystery of the gods. We will see the ancient transformation concerning the gods that changed world history. We will open up a 2,000-year-old warning involving a house of spirits and what it foretells concerning the modern world. We will then see how the gods of the ancient mystery have come into our world. We will uncover the Dark Trinity and how it has changed our culture. We will reveal how the gods are working and moving in all that is taking place around us, how they are initiating social upheavals and cultural revolutions, indwelling our politics, transforming our world, and even our lives. Finally, we will open up the meaning and significance of it all, what it portends, what it will lead to, and what we need to know and do in light of it. Warning: the mystery revealed in this book will touch the sacred cows of our culture and age. It will broach that which is deemed unbroachable. It will speak that which is judged as unspeakable, question the unquestionable, and reveal what has not yet been revealed. It will address the most radical and controversial issues of our time, the front lines of the cultural upheaval, the catalytic forces that are now transforming society, civilization, history, and life as these have been known. As it progresses, the mystery will become more intense and more explosive. Thus, the latter part of the revelation will be even more so than the first. At the same time, it will touch those sacred cows and issues in a way which they are not normally touched, illuminated by the light of a mystery that goes back ages to ancient times. What one does with the revelations is in his own court. The purpose of this book is to reveal them. I love that. I'm excited. I want to reveal what's been hidden in the dark. I want to bring it to light. I want to shed light on it. The light of truth that our God, our Creator, is not happy with what's going on, and that there is a war coming, and Jesus is coming on a horse prepared for battle. You know, if you've read the back of the book, you know this, right? So, yeah, so there is a war that is going to take place. Truly good versus evil in that final battle. But what led up to all that? I mean, God destroyed the earth years ago with the flood of Noah. Then he destroyed cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. Um, he's warred against certain peoples that were embracing and worshiping other gods. When God would tell Israel in places in the Old Testament not to have anything to do with certain tribes of people, it wasn't because of anything other than he always went back to, they will teach you to worship idols. That's what he had against them. Let's keep reading. All right, chapter 2, the return of the gods. Again, it's just a couple pages, and then we'll pause for the evening. The return of the gods, chapter 2. The gods have returned. They have been away for ages. The ancients had exiled them. They wandered the barren and desolate places, the deserts and the wildernesses, the alleyways and ruins, the graves and the sepulchres. They haunted the underground, the dark realms of the forbidden, the taboo and the dead. They inhabited the shadows of the outer darkness. In their days of glory, they had reigned over tribes and nations, kingdoms and empires. They had subjected cultures and mastered civilizations, infusing them with their spirits, saturating them with their images, and professing them. They sat enthroned in marble temples and shrines of wood and stone, by hallowed trees and rivers and sacred groves, and in mountain-top sanctuaries. Their statues and carved images looked down at their worshippers, who approached their altars with offerings and tributes and sacrifices and even blood, even human victims. Kings bowed down before them, priests sang their praises and performed their rituals. Armies set off to war and laid cities to waste in their names. And children, the rich and the poor, the free and the slave alike, exalted them, worshipped them, entreated their favor, invoked their powers, danced to the drumbeat of their festivals, dreamed of them, loved them, served them, dreaded them, became entranced and seized by them. But the days of their dominion came to an end. They were expelled from the high places, banished from the palaces of kings, driven out of the public squares, cast out of their temples, and removed from the lives of their subjects. Their groves were neglected, their shrines abandoned, their altars left in disrepair, and their sanctuaries in ruins. No longer were they worshipped or feared. No longer were their hymns sung, their festivals partaken in, or their holy days observed. No longer were they believed in. The gods were sent into exile. In time they became memories, echoes, phantoms, and then they were forgotten. In the days of their absence, kingdoms had risen and fallen, nations had disappeared, an empire had collapsed, and a new civilization had been born. The world they had left had disappeared. In its place had risen another that was altogether foreign to them. In their absence, man had charted the earth, vanquished nature, dissected the fabric of life, and codified the universe. The forests were no longer enchanted, the shrines were no longer sacred, and nature was no longer magical. The scientists now wore the mantle of the prophet, and the garment of the priest had been replaced by lab coats. The world had been disenchanted. It was then, having demystified the earth and awash in his new-found powers, the man decided he had no need of any God. And it was then, and by that the ancient door was set ajar. The long-locked portal of the gods was reopened. Thus was their conjuring, their invocation, and their return. And so it began. They came back from the desolate places and from the dark and forbidden realms. They came up from the underground and from the dwelling places of the dead. They stepped out from the shadows. They had came slowly at first, as the door had at first only been slightly opened. Had their entrance been too rapid, it would have been repelled and the door would have been closed. But by entering with measured steps, they were able to keep the door ajar and then open it still wider. And as the shock that followed each of their steps dissipated, the resistance to their return would be overcome. The world they now entered was unlike the one they had left. In the former world, cities glowed with the light of oil lamps and walls were adorned with carved images. But in the world they entered, cities were illuminated with electrical currents, and images of light moved across billboards and movie screens, television sets, and computer monitors. The gods could not rule over the modern world as they had ruled over the ancient, not in the same way. But they would rule over it. They would not return to the high places and groves or to their ancient shrines and temples. No, they would inhabit the new seats of power by which the modern world has led and make of them their thrones. They would come upon the movers and the influencers of modern culture and make them their instruments. To gain dominion over the modern world, they could not appear as though they had in ancient times, though they were still a remnant of those who worshipped them and who called them by their name. They were of the fringe. The modern mind of the gods, to the modern mind, the gods did not exist, and few would serve them if they believed they did. So the gods came back in disguise. Imagine that. They altered their appearances. They took on new identities and gave themselves new names. They came as spirits of enlightenment, freedom, power. They came as secular gods, new gods, alternate gods, gods that granted godhood, gods that denied that they were gods, and gods that declared that there were no gods. They came as gods of the modern world. And so the gods returned. And having returned, they began working their dark magic, prodding and impelling, tempting and seducing, drawing away, uprooting what was planted and planting what was not, overturning, transforming, moving the ancient markers, breaking down the ancient hedges, and forcing open the ancient gates. And as the seeds of their planting came to fruition, and their spirits infused more and more of the modern world, they grew still more powerful. And so the gods now dwell among us. They inhabit our institutions, walk the halls of our governments, cast votes in our legislatures, guide our corporations, gaze out from our skyscrapers, perform on our stages, and teach in our universities. They saturate our media, direct our news cycles, inspire our entertainments, and give voices to our songs. They perform on our stages, in our theaters and stadiums. They light up our television and our computer screens. They incite new movements and ideologies and convert others to their ends. They instruct our children and initiate them into their ways. They incite the multitudes. They drive otherwise rational people into irrationality and some into frenzies, just as they had done in ancient times. They demand our worship, our veneration, our submission, and our sacrifices. The gods are everywhere. They have permeated our culture and they have mastered our civilization. The gods are here. To begin the mystery of the gods, we must go back to the ancient times and to the entities known as the Shaddim. And that ends part 1. We'll get into part 2. The spirits is next. Not tonight, but another night. But now that I've put this on there, it'll motivate me to get on with it. So if you have questions, comments, if you're excited about this, if you want it done a little differently or you have a suggestion, let me know. Like I said, I'm open. I just want to be accountable and I want to share this with you and let's talk about it. It's very exciting to put different pieces of the puzzle together that the Bible has already created for us. And a lot of these characters that we're going to read about as time goes on, you will recognize some of their names because they are in the Bible. When certain tribes were worshiping these particular gods that are going to be talked about in this book in depth, and how those are the gods. I'll give you a hint. Baal, or Baal, B-A-A-L, Ishtar, or Ashtarte, Molech, just to name a couple. Those are some that are in the Bible. He's going to talk about in here in this book. And I'm so excited to be reading it with you. So, have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.